Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Toilets to Titles NFL Show. Tonight we're recapping week 4, and we're going to give our picks for week 5. And joining me from the UK is my new co-host, Andrew Steele Davis. From the UK, it's around 1:10 a.m. in the morning over there. Poor guy, but thank you for joining us. How are you, Andrew?
My pleasure. No, I'm really good. Thank you, Joe. How are you?
Good, man. Good. I see we're both wearing our New York gear. I have my Giants gear on, at least my hat. And you've got your Jets zip up over there, I see, and the Jets colored hat.
Yeah, I mean it's not often both New York teams win on the same weekend, so I think we need to
Yeah, right.
take full advantage why it happens.
Yeah. Hey, listen. At least for the weekend, we're champs. We're champs.
Absolutely.
All right. Before we get into the content, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. Just a friendly reminder to everyone: please hit that like button, subscribe, give us that 5-star Apple review if you can, if you got the time. It takes like 30 seconds at most, and it really helps us out a lot. Where you can find the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. If you go to patreon.com/toilets and titles, you can you'll learn how you can further support the show. We have different tiers of support for whatever you're able to donate. We really appreciate it. And just want to give a thank you to all of our current Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for taking the time to donate, basically to provide for the show. Everything that you donate goes back into producing the show. We really appreciate you so much. And last but not least, our great website that I love, toiletsandtitles.com. It has all of our videos. We have tons of articles out there. Basically, everything you do with football, we cover. We're a team of like 15 or 16 people, and we cover fantasy football. That's our meat and potatoes is fantasy, but we do a ton of NFL content. We're doing more and more college football content. That's become a real staple for Toilets and Titles now is college football. So we have a lot of that and draft content too. Off season, we're really, really big in the draft. We're always providing information on players, and also we do a ton of mock drafts as well during leading up to the NFL draft. So and also for fantasy draft as well. We do a lot of mock drafts for those, and people love them. Our subscribers love those. So, but check it out. Everything that we pretty much produce winds up on our website. Absolutely love it. So, and before we dive into the content, we got a comment over here. That's right. John, all right, John is in the chat, otherwise known as Coach Chefs. He wants me to promote. I forgot. There's a giveaway, everyone. There's a giveaway. And it's $100 Fanatics gift card. $100 Fanatics gift card. If all you have to do, and you can do it as many times on basically, if you go on every single episode up until November 1st, and if you type into the comments section, I am a T2T fanatic, and if you put your Twitter handle, we're gonna have basically a raffle on November 1st for a winner for a $100 gift card. So put that in there. And John, I'm glad you were there to remind me because darn it, I did forget. So just if you can put it in, and I will send out a few reminders during the episode. As a matter of fact, when Andrew was speaking for a little while, I will put it into the comments section and so people can reference it. But again, November 1st, we're going to have an auto-generated winner for this raffle, $100 gift card for Fanatics. And all you have to do is say, I'm a T2T fanatic with your Twitter handle in the comments section. And you can do it on any episode. And the more you do it, obviously, the more chances you have to win. All right, so let's see what we got coming in here. Okay, in football, in my opinion, looks like it's someone who's coming in from Israel. This year, Manchester City will win the Champions League. They have the best morale in the world. Dave Brain and the best goal scorer in the world history, Harling Howland. This is an NFL program, but you know what? Football is football, I guess, is soccer. Is this anything you want to address here?
Well,
Probably know more about soccer/football than I do.
There's two issues here for me. One, I think he's got the wrong wrong show, and two, I mean, some of the spelling of the names in there, not great. So I think there's two issues with that. I think he's got the wrong spot for sure.
Yeah, but listen, thank you for hopping in. We really appreciate it. And you know what? Why don't you stay here and listen, and maybe you'll really get into American football, NFL football.
Yeah, we'll convert you to the right sport.
Absolutely. And John says Erling is the king. We'll see about that, John Sheps. We'll see about that. Anyway, let's dive into the content over here, guys. Week 4 NFL. Exciting as always. The first game was the Thursday night game. The Bengals, who are now 2-2, defeated the now 3-1 Dolphins 27 to 15. The big outcome, besides the score, and the Bengals moving up to 2-2, and the Dolphins dropping to 3-1, no longer being undefeated. The biggest thing out of this game was the Tua injury, the concussion, which anyone who's an NFL fan saw it. It was very scary, very concerning. But the Dolphins are off to an awesome start to the season, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But defense is playing well too. But Tua was looking really good, distributing the ball to his star wide receivers. The Dolphins were pumping; they were doing great, and now this. Andrew, any thoughts on this game and Tua? Anything you want to say about this game over
Mm.
here?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the game's almost been forgotten in terms of
Yeah,
the
afterthought
the,
now.
the the overall kind of narrative now that's moving forward and for kind of forcing CTE back in the conversation, and there's a lot of conversation around it, and rightly so, because it's a big issue, and I think the Dolphins and the NFL clearly made sizable mistakes, not just
Mhm.
that game, but the Sunday before. There was clearly some, a huge lapse in judgment made by some for Tua to even be out there. So I think that was kind of the main talking point, and it will be going forward. I mean, in terms of the game itself, the Bengals kind of did what they had to do, and they bounced back a little. I think
Yeah,
there's still some concern over protecting Joe Burrow, and that's going to be a. But to be fair, that new look O line did show there were glimpses that game that they're starting to gel. And I think if they can gel and give Joe Burrow more protection, I think the Bengals will be fine. And I think, as you said on the Dolphins, prior to the Tua injury, they look really good under
yeah.
Mike McDaniel's. I mean, the way that they're scheming to get Waddle and Hill open, they just look very explosive. And I think if Tua can come back um, in a couple of weeks and stay healthy, then they'll be dangerous.
Yeah, and the Dolphins do have a good backup quarterback. Like when you want a backup quarterback, I mean, Jacoby Brissett is definitely one of the best ones, and this is a guy who's experienced at backing up too. And there is something to that. Some quarterbacks, some players really, you know, can't, are not used to doing that. He's used to doing that. He's had
Sure.
success as both a backup and a starter. So that's important. So I think he could help the Dolphins, moving forward, just in terms of keeping them afloat until Tua does get back. I hope he gets back soon. It was really scary to see. And, he's had early in his career, he's had a lot of injuries. So, you know, um, we'll see. Vitamin concussion, something different, but he has been injury prone. But that was really darn scary to see. But yeah, the Bengals are. Listen, the Bengals, like you pointed out, that their offensive line, Joe Burrow was getting destroyed the past few weeks. The Dolphins have a good defense too. I mean, everyone's talking about their offense, but Dolphins defense is pretty solid too. They did a great job the previous week against Buffalo. Again, in terms of minimizing what Buffalo was able to do. Um, Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, obviously. And so they do have a pretty stout defense, but the Bengals held up strong here, and they did put up 27 points. Kudos to them, the defending AFC champions. But definitely concerned for Tua, and hopefully he gets better soon, and hopefully he doesn't get concussed again. That was scary to see. And moving on to the
Definitely.
next game. Okay, so the now 3-1 Vikings defeated the now 1-3 Saints, 28-25. The game was actually, I think, closer than I thought it should have been. And I think the Vikings, this is something I said about the Vikings quite a bit. This is a team that's usually very competitive, but at least always leaves me wanting more. I feel like they're a team that always plays up to the competition, and they're a team that plays down to the competition. And I am completely out on the Saints. I think this team stinks, to be honest. Well, they don't stink. They've got some quality players there. But I'm not surprised they're off to a 1-3 start. I wasn't buying into them coming in myself. I thought even the defense, which I do think is good, I still think was overrated as well. Obviously Kamara, um, Kamara's he's had a quiet season, and that hurts. Olave is looking great, the rookie wide receiver, but Jameis Winston is kind of hoping that he would kind of like be better than he had been with Tampa Bay, but he doesn't have Sean Payton there anymore either. So I am
Exactly.
actually just yeah, I mean, I am a little surprised it was this close. I think the Vikings are significantly better than the Saints, but whatever. The Vikings are 3-1. They got the win. And anything you want to add about this game at all?
Yeah, it was a tough game to watch in terms of I think both teams, particularly the Vikings, just couldn't. They put good drives together, but they just couldn't get anything going in the red zone.
Yeah,
And there was so many missed opportunities from the Vikings, and there were a couple of brain farts by Kirk Cousins at key moments.
yeah,
Um, the Saints did a good job, I think, of really keeping Justin Jefferson kind of quiet until late on, where he made a couple of huge plays that ultimately won the game, and I think it was fitting that being a London game, it was a kicklet that won it and decided it ultimately
yeah,
with the miss.
yeah,
It,
yeah. And you gotta worry about Dal. You have to worry about Dalvin Cook too.
yeah,
Shoulder, which has been like a chronic problem from throughout his career. That's it's rearing its ugly head again. And I understand Alexander Madison is a really great handcuff. I was talking about like, Jacoby Brissett is like an ideal backup quarterback. Alexander Madison is like an ideal handcuff running back, but still there's a difference between the two. And he is a big part. I realize they have really good wide receivers, obviously Justin Jefferson and Thielen. Thielen reared his head. We
yeah,
definitely had a
he had
Thielen
some
shot
big
in this week.
plays.
He had some big plays. Of course, the one weekend I didn't play him because I've got him a few in my fantasy rosters. But one weekend I didn't like play him as my wide receiver two or my flex. He shows up, of course. But
He,
yeah, but
he he's
go ahead.
so Thielens just kind of that ideal, tough football player. He's going to get you
He
yards
is.
after contact. There were a couple of times Sunday where he got a couple of extra yards just through sheer will. And for large parts of the game where Justin Jefferson just wasn't available, due to the Saints doing a good job with their schemes. Thielen was a real good outlet for Cousins, I thought.
Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, and listen, I don't mean to sound too sour about Thielen. I do like Thielen a lot. He's a gamer. I'm just a little jaded because he burned me my first few weeks in fantasy, and of course, the one week I sit him, he
That's
puts up
always the way.
puts up.
Always the
It
way.
is. It is the fantasy gods. The fantasy gods are cruel. Andrew Steele Davis, they're cruel, really cruel. I
Oh,
just want to bring up
they burnt me this week. That's for sure.
how many leagues are you in, by the way?
6.
Uh, Hey, that's actually more. I was going to say, hey, I'm only in five. So, but we've got people here at Toss the Titles, like, we've got like 14 other teammates here at Toss the Titles. They're like, in like dozens of leagues. I don't know how they manage it. It's too crazy for me. We do have a question here from Chad Rome. It looks like a fantasy question. Our current wide receiver are Debo, Cortland Sutton, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and now Pickens. Wilson and London are the only receivers whose bye is not week 9. What or who would you do or drop? Um, I'm not sure I really understand the question here. I mean, week 9 is that's pretty far away. We've got like 4 weeks to go. And listen, I'll just answer it this way. If I had to not keep one of these players, it's going to be for me. It's going to be Pickens. I'll answer the question that way, Chad. 14 team standard. Okay, so got 14 teams in this league. I'm in a league too. That's 14 teams. Kind of crazy because how'd you wind up with all those receivers in 14 team league? Holy cow, Chad. That's really you stack up on those wide receivers. That's a lot of talent, man. My team that I have in my 14 team league is is slim pickings, man. I've got my bench is horrible. But for me, it's Pickens. Pickens is the one out. Debo is just, He's one of the top receivers in the game, and he's got Garoppolo back at the helm. Cortland Sutton, as long as he's healthy, I think Cortland Sutton is a wide receiver one. He's not a premier wide receiver one like a like a Justin Jefferson, but the guy is really consistent, and he's got Russ Wilson thrown to him. Garrett Wilson's been looking really good for the Jets, who Andrew and I are gonna focus on in a little while, a little further in the
Yep.
show. Drake London's been looking really good for Atlanta. So, and listen, George Pickens just had a really good game, Chad. He just had a really good game. But you do have Pickett coming in now, taking the helm, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I know his quarterback Trubisky is nothing to write home about, but Trubisky is a vet. He's a veteran, and Pickett is a rookie. So and Pickens is a rookie himself too. I mean, Garrett Wilson is and Drake London is, but I think their situation's a little more stable. So for me, Chad, uh, I'll just answer the question this way: that if there's one guy I got to leave out, it's Pickens. What do you think? Do you agree with me, Andrew?
Yeah, I think.
You
I
have to
mean,
drop one of these guys.
as you said, it's a tough one just because week nine's so far away and a lot can happen
Yeah, yep.
between, and
So
that's kind of I agree with you. I think it'd be Pickens, but it's tough to give a definitive
yeah,
answer because again, we're only week five now, so
yeah.
you know,
Debo Samuel could easily be injured by then. Cortland Sutton's has gone through a share of injuries through his career as well. So yeah. Pickens might be the last man standing by week nine. You never know the
yeah,
way
sadly,
players are dropping this year, man. He might be the last man standing. Uh, so okay, we move on to let's move along here. Okay, so Falcons at the Browns. The Falcons, 2-2. They're a tough team, man. I got a lot of respect for the Atlanta Falcons. People were expecting not much last year, and maybe they weren't great, but they actually showed up. I think for pretty much every game last year, they played tough, and they're doing the same thing this year. And they took advantage. I still think Cleveland, all things being equal, I do think Cleveland is a better team, but Cleveland's also beat up themselves on the defensive side of the ball. Atlanta took care of business. They took advantage of the deficiencies with the Browns right now in defense. And they pulled out the game 23-20. But it's also for me a very Cleveland Browns type of thing to do. They're 2-2, kind of like middling, where it's another team that always leaves me wanting more. To be fair to them, I was just saying that they're banged up on the defensive side of the ball, but Cleveland Browns. I know they're waiting for Deshaun Watson to show up like week 10 or week 11, but that's definitely a team that wants me wanting more. That leaves me wanting more. The running game was good. They had a good running game this week, but I think Amari Cooper had like one catch. I think I'm not. I don't recall what Njoku did, the tight end for Cleveland. He might have had another good game. He might have, but obviously it wasn't enough. But the Falcons took care of business here. Anything you wanted to discuss on this particular game here?
uh, I think you kind of summed it up nice. I think for me, just the Browns are just treading water
Yeah,
until Watson comes back. So I think for me, they're a hard team to kind of gauge between now and then because they're just gonna run the ball
yeah,
um, and hope for the best really. And I think the Falcons, as you said, they're a tough, durable team. Um,
yeah. They surprise. They
they,
show up.
you know, they show up. I'm still not very happy with them and the fantasy gods for Carl Pitts because I banked on him in every single one of my leagues this year, and
Yeah.
it's not paying off. So, Falcons, great win for them, but I'm not exactly rooting for them right now until Pitts sorts itself out. So,
Yeah, that's like me with
yeah,
Dalton Schultz. I kind of pass on tight end. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take Dalton Schultz like in round 8,
mm-hmm.
and I got him like in 3 leagues. I still believe in the guy, but he's back from injury now. But so far, he's given me nothing. But that was my master plan. Tight end Dalton Schultz week like round 8. I think I said week 8, like round 8. I got him like in 3 leagues, and that was when I targeted. And so far, I've got nothing from him. But that was my master plan. So far, it's not so masterful. But also on the Falcons side, I just want to mention real quick on the fantasy side, um, Cordarrelle Patterson is injured, and so it looks like
Yeah,
the rookie running back, Tyler Algier or Algier, I think it's Algier, is going to be should be the starting running back this weekend. So they've got rookie wide receiver Drake London in there, who's performing pretty well. Um, and he's performing pretty well so far this year. Pitts has had a quiet year. I still love Pitts. I know he's not having a very good year fantasy wise. He's having a quiet season, but I still love the guy long term. I think Drake London's looking really good. He's coming along nicely for a rookie. And now you're going to see Algier out there as the running back. I believe the running back one. I believe he might be splitting some time with another running back, but I think he's going to be RB1, I believe. So kind of exciting to see. And who knows? Maybe later on, I don't know what the Falcons' plans are, but maybe we'll see their rookie quarterback take over, Desmond Ritter, at some point this year. We'll see. So that's Falcons have a lot of exciting young players, man, on the offensive side of the ball. They
Definitely,
really
for
do.
sure.
They do. And moving on. Okay, this is one game I think that Andrew and I both wanted to talk about, and that's the now 3-1 Cowboys defeated the now 1-3 Commanders 25-10. Cowboys, first thing that always pops into my mind is Micah Parsons and the defense. And the defense has been really, really good for the Cowboys. This is the defense that's actually has got real players at each level of their defense. And the whole thing is headlined by Micah Parsons, who I refer to as the straw that stirs the drink. Because as good as Trevon Diggs is a cornerback, as good as they have pretty good safeties too. They have a good secondary, but they also have Demarcus Lawrence as one of their defensive ends. Micah Parsons is the difference maker, and incredible player to see. That defense has been really, really good. And you look at the Commanders. Listen, they're going to have a good test coming up against the Rams, the Cowboys, that is. But listen, the Commanders are nothing to write home about. They defeated my Giants last week. Giants offense is definitely nothing to write home about. But the previous 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season, they held the Buccaneers to 19 points, and then they also held the Bengals to I think like 21 points, I believe. So the Cowboys defense, in my mind, is for real, and I'm not worried about that. A test for them against the Rams, who I find to be kind of underwhelming, to be honest with you, so far right now, anyway. But the Cowboys defense is for real. They're really, really holding the line. At 3-1, looking really good until Dak gets back. Cooper Rush is someone who I think you wanted to talk about. Has been
Yeah.
we were talking about backup quarterbacks before. Cooper Rush has been an outstanding backup quarterback for Dallas so far. Not making any mistakes, being very efficient, and just being a really really good game manager. And listen, making good decisions too. Quick processor, like the dude a lot. So, but take it away, Andrew Steele. I know you wanted to kind of talk about Cooper Rush. I think in this game, the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we go back to week one, we were talking about doom and gloom, and it was going to be another year and another missed opportunity for the Cowboys,
Yeah, maybe
and
maybe like picking at number five again, like a few years ago when Romo went down, they wound up with the Zeke at like the number five pick.
yeah, yeah, and there was no good news coming out of Jerry World whatsoever. And look, we're still early, but as you said, kind of a few weeks on, and there's a lot of positive. They're 3-1. Their defense is elite. Um, and Cooper Rush, whether Dak Prescott's good to go this weekend or next week, but
Mm.
he's come in. He's proved he's a really really good reliable backup in the NFL. He's 3-0. He went for 223 yards on 15 of 27 passing, 2 touchdowns. Um, you know, he's a game manager, and he's just going to do the little things well, and that's all you want from a backup. And
Hmm.
and look, Dax, we've talked about a lot of players already um, on the show who struggle to stay healthy, and Dak can go into that category in terms of he's had his fair share of problems. And I think for the Cowboys, if Dak goes down again, at least they know they've got somebody who can come in and get the job done and operate the offense and put drives together and get the job done. And that's all you need in the NFL.
Oh yeah. Listen, you can't ask for more than that. He's been outstanding. Listen, no mistakes. Don't beat yourself. I mean, heck, starting quarterbacks, you know, beat themselves plenty of times. So here he is coming in as a backup, not beating himself, not making mistakes, just being, I guess taking what the opposing defense is giving him, and you're able to rely on that superior defense to keep games close anyway. So, but they took care of business against Washington. Washington's looking really beat up. I mean, maybe not physically, maybe not people on the players on the IR, but man, Washington's looking they're looking pretty homely right now. They really are. Just really disappointing. Real shame because they've got some talent on that team. But their defense is definitely nothing to write home about. Not a surprise that secondary is pretty horrible, but it's I know people aren't crazy about Carson Wentz. There's some I think some rumblings that you may see QB change over there that Wentz may sit Wentz and then I guess reinstall who was the quarterback last year that
Heineke.
was their starter. Heineke, that's right, Heineke.
Yeah.
That Heineke might take over again. And hey, I guess when you're not winning, listen, when you're 1-3, what does it hurt? And I think the team like Heineke, I think they wanted to level up a little bit, and they saw Carson Wentz as that way to do it, but really hasn't been working out, I guess. I know the fan base likes him too down in Washington too, so I don't think people see him as a savior, but they just like the guy. They like the guy. And I got to say, last year he made things happen more than Wentz is doing this year. So two
Yeah, and
teams.
he pushed Tom Brady tough in the playoffs, and um, he certainly showed flashes. And I think the problem with Wentz is I just think we're too far
Yeah,
gone. I think what Washington was probably the last team to do can we save him? Can we get him back to what? I think that's gone. I think all the
yeah.
injuries he's had, I think, has taken away any potential he had to reach a certain level. And I
Hmm.
think what we're seeing with Wentz this year is he is what he is.
Yeah,
He's going to give
yeah.
you the odd moments of brilliance, but he's also going to give you, for every one moment of genius, he's going to give you 10 moments where you just want to pull your hair out and throw the TV out the window, and that's just who he is.
Yeah, yeah, it's a shame because he had like that. He was the running for the MVP the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and he got injured like second, like near the end of the season, and he was out for the rest of the year. Foles took over and wound up leading the team, quarterbacking the team to the Super Bowl championship against the Patriots. But Carson Wentz had such an awesome year, and I think that was the second year. I think if I recall correctly, whether it was 2019, 2018, I don't remember, but he was phenomenal that year, and it's been a real shame. I still think the Colts should have kept him for one more year, and we'll get to the Colts in a little bit, but Matt Ryan's not exactly burning it up with down over in Indianapolis right now. I thought they should have given him one more shot. I don't know, maybe it doesn't make a difference. But let's get on to this game. Holy cow! Okay, the Seahawks are a surprising 2-2 coming in. I thought this was going to be probably the worst team in football this year. And they're 2-2. Geno West, who was our very first award winner, for presented by Andrew Steele Davis, of give that man his damn flowers, a few weeks ago, for week one, and he was he's actually Geno West has been hanging in there. He's got game. He's been showing a lot. Seahawks are 2-2. They defeated the Lions, who now may be the best 1-3 team I've seen in a very long time, because the Lions are putting up a lot of points.
Yeah,
Problem is they're letting up a lot of points. And if you look at the standings and the breakdown of points scored, points allowed, the Lions are leading the NFL in both categories. I think they've scored like 108 points and they've given up like 114 points, something like that. So, but the Lions are an exciting team. I did think the Lions were going to take this game, but hey, Seahawks put up 45 points and put up 48 points, and the Lions actually did this too without Amon-Ra St. Brown as well, who was out, and they also did it without their two best players, Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. So Jamal Williams, who on I think most other teams will probably be a running back one, filled in more than admirably. He's having a great year himself. I forgot the amount of yards he put up, but I think it was well over 100, and he had two touchdowns as well. So the offense certainly wasn't lacking for the Lions, but the defense, they need a lot of help there. But I mean, Seahawks. Anything you wanted to talk about with the Seahawks and the Lions at all? Anything you wanted to focus on?
well, I think there's so much to unpack from this game. We're going to talk about a player from this game a bit later on, so I won't give that away. But
Mhm.
I mean, first, if you're a Lions fan, you must be thinking what you've done to cheese off the football gods this much, because
Yeah,
they finally got a team that can put up numbers. Goff. Look, Goff is. We were talking about Carson Wentz being what Carson Wentz is. Goff's similar. Goff's never going to be um, a premier QB1.
Yeah,
he's a game manager, and he'll get the job done, but he's also going to blow things. But
uh,
he's been putting up big numbers. He's got weapons, and in the game, as you said, where I think three of their biggest weapons were missing, they were still able to put up big numbers. Yet they lost. So for Lions fans, I think there's a lot of frustration, but I still think there's a lot of positive signs there that they're heading in the right direction.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
for the Seahawks, you mentioned Gino Smith. Obviously, we've talked about him before on this show. Um, and it was just another really encouraging display for me. 13 for 17 for 139 yards and two TDs on play action passes. And I think if the Seahawks are going to be successful this year, it's going to be using play action. I think
Yeah,
utilizing that and really highlighting Geno Smith's strengths. They did
hmm
that Sunday. If they can do that, then look, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. But I think if they can kind of continue to do what they're built on and put Geno Smith in the best positions, I think they'll win a few games where maybe they shouldn't.
yeah. I think I agree with that. I think play action is important for a quarterback like Geno. That's the same thing with Daniel Jones. Quarterbacks with with very definitive ceilings, not so great, and but they've got legs, and you got to make use of that, and you got to keep the defense honest. It helps keep, I should say, it helps keep
So
the defense honest. So that is definitely the way to go. And yeah, Geno West, man, kudos to you. But yeah, there was another player that had a great game for the Lions too. That we will, we're just teasing right now that we're
yeah, yeah,
who was an award winner later. We'll talk about him later. But Lions fans, don't be disappointed in your team. They're 1-3. I understand it may be frustrating because you're putting up all these points, but be happy that you're putting up these points. You are still a rebuilding team. I know you want to win. Everyone wants their team to be competitive, but you're seeing so much positive here. If I were you, I would just be super, super happy about how week in and week out your team, your offense is performing. Everything else will shake out. You got to keep adding talent to your defense, and it's just going to take time. You're still a rebuilding team. But man, the way the Lions offense has been rolling for the first quarter of the season, I'm super impressed. If I were a Lions fan, I'd be super excited, really excited. And moving on to the next game. Okay, the 2-2. It seems like everyone's 2-2. The 2-2 Titans defeated the 1-2-1 Colts. The Colts made it interesting. They have a tie in there. The Colts are now 1-2-1. The Titans beat the Colts 24-17. The Titans needed this game badly as they needed this game badly to not fall to 1-3. The AFC South is not looking all that great. As a matter of fact, the Jaguars, who we'll talk about in a little bit, may be the best team at least through the first quarter of the season, surprisingly in that division. But 24-17, the Colts are hurting. They're hurting like Jonathan Taylor may be hurting. Pittman has been the wide receiver. Pittman's been a little quiet. He was definitely kind of quiet. He maybe had a decent game this past weekend, but 24-17, I definitely expected. I think we all expected more from the Colts so far in the first quarter of the season. 1-2-1. I still think this is a team that can bounce back, that has the talent, to rattle off a bunch of wins and make a playoff push later on the season. We're still early, but I am concerned. This is the start they got off to last year with Carson Wentz at the helm, new quarterback, and actually one of the players, I forgot who it was, one of the players on the Colts, basically, showed his frustration with the, seems like seemingly every year, like a new quarterback, and the team has to wait for like everyone to gel on the offense, and
yeah.
they got to wait like a month, and it costs them games, and then they have to catch up. It's what they did try to do last year, and they wound up one game short of the playoffs. And right now they're off to a slow start again. Any thoughts on these teams or this game here?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was an ugly game. As you said, that division doesn't look great, and we all know what the Titans are going to do. They're going to rely on Derrick Henry, and
Mm-hmm.
that's their bread and butter. The Colts are just messy. I just, as you said, I just don't get the Colts. I think
Yeah,
that's a byproduct of you know of not having a quarterback, and
yeah,
it just proves that quarterbacks are king in the NFL because they've gone through, what was it, 9 quarterbacks in 9 years, something like that.
something like that.
Um,
Yeah.
and last year they got off to a really slow start, and it ultimately cost them. And it could be the same this year. You know, Matt Ryan's still figuring stuff out. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor's going to miss the set out this week, Thursday night
Yeah.
football. So they're just a messy team. They just don't look great. Fundamentally, they don't look good on either side of the ball. And if they are going to kind of recover and make a push for the playoffs, they're going to have to do it soon. Because if not, I think it's going to be another year of failure and maybe another search for a quarterback.
Yeah, another disappointing season for a team that's too talented, to just be like to not be making the playoffs. And Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, he's definitely a vocal owner, and he wears his feelings on his sleeves, his emotions on his sleeves, and he let it be known apparently this week that he was not happy. It sounds like the general manager and the head coach are both on notice over there in Indianapolis. So, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Okay, so let's move on to the game that counts the most here. My Giants won 20-12. The Giants are now 3-1. Probably the most unimpressive 3-1 team out there. They defeated the Bears, who are also 2-2. Everyone's 2-2. 20-12. Ugly game. Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the Giants, starting quarterback, got injured. His status is up in the air for this upcoming week, but Saquon Barkley had a monster game, and right now he's definitely looking like the best or one of the top three running backs in the NFL this year. He's looking like rookie Saquon, and that's really the story out of this game. He's looking like rookie Saquon, maybe even better than rookie Saquon, because he's running really, really well. As a Giants fan, I can tell you he's running extremely well between the tackles this year, which rookie year, not so much. All of his work was done outside the tackles. He's doing great work in the tackles, outside the tackles, everywhere. So he's been an absolute monster. And Giants defense played well, but these are two very bottom tier teams. A lot of messiness here too, and so the Bears are a mess with when the Giants had something like 6 sacks in this game, and because the offensive line for the Bears, just like the Giants, is really bad. But when the Giants defense is getting 6 sacks, things are really bad. I think the Giants defense had like 6 sacks for the previous 3 games, I think, combined, I believe, and they just double that. So when the Giants defense is getting 6 sacks, there's a serious problem. And Justin Fields, quarterback for the Bears, he's got a ways to go. I'm not hating on the guy. I don't think he's got too much help out there. I think he has some good weapons out there, but nothing great. He doesn't have a Saquon Barkley. I like Khalil Herbert a lot. He's not Saquon Barkley. At least Daniel Jones has that. He doesn't have premier
Yeah.
wide receivers. Mooney's a good wide receiver. He's not an alpha. He's not a wide receiver one. They don't have that. They've got some good pieces, but there's not nearly enough, and the offensive line is horrible. So Justin Fields is in a tough situation, but Justin, just stay healthy. Stay healthy until they eventually can get you an offensive line. Stay healthy and try to progress. Any thoughts on this game here? These two
I think
teams.
for me, this game kind of proved that coaching really matters in the NFL more than any of the other
It
four
does.
major sports.
It does.
I think the NBA has proven that coaching doesn't really matter if you got stars. Baseball, we all know the managers are just the front for the analytics department. Um, NHL is kind of a different conversation. I think there's no doubt that NFL coaching is, if you have good coaching, that can take you up a level or two. And I think
Yep.
what this game proved is that the Giants have finally got a coach that can drag them through and make the most of what they've got, and probably make them better than what they actually are. And
Yeah,
then as we've
exactly.
seen with Chicago, they've had, and I know it's still early with the new head coach, but they've not had good coaching for a while. And I think this game
Hmm.
was kind of the definition of what good coaching can do for you. And look, Daniel Jones, I think we're going to be talking every week about whether he's the guy. I think what we can say is that Barkley's back, and this is peak Barkley.
Oh yeah.
146 yards off 31 carries.
Hmm.
And again, we talked about this in week one. What's really impressive about Barkley this year is we know that he's got that explosive 60, 70, 80-yard run in
Yeah.
him, but he's
Yep.
also getting the hard yards this year, and
Yeah.
that's something he's not done before, and that's proven the difference.
Yep. 100%. That was, as I remember. I think it was Pat Shermer. His rookie year said he does, I mean, he had an awesome rookie year, but even Shermer at the time was saying he's got to learn how to get those dirty yards, and he's doing it, man. He's doing it. So, but the Giants, that's a great point about the coaching. Like as a Giants fan, we love this coaching staff. We love Dable. It feels so right and it feels so competent. Even though Brian Dable had never been a head coach before, I never know. I always give coaches the leeway. You never know who's going to be a good coach, a bad coach, especially when they've never done it before. You never know. You just never. So I'm always like, wait and see attitude. I mean, I was definitely happy when they signed him. It made sense when they signed him. The guy was successful up in Buffalo. His Alabama connections, and then they got Wink Martindale as the defensive coordinator. I love that too. There's a guy with 10 years of success with Baltimore, who's always one of the top tier defenses, and they still need to add a lot more talent on that side of the ball. But I'm happy with how they're performing with what they have so far. There can be some games where they get blown out, but there's limits on the talent on this team. But the Bears too. The Bears. Hey, listen, the Bears are 2-2. They're in an even tougher situation, I think. But they're hanging in there 2-2. They've got a tougher situation. In Chicago, keep fighting, keep fighting. I still believe in Justin Fields, but he needs help. He needs some. Every quarterback needs wide receivers, and every quarterback needs an offensive line to give you at least a modicum of protection, So, but anyway, so Giants have the Packers coming up. We'll get to that in a little bit. And just as a Giants fan, I'm happy. I'm happy with how they're trending. I'm just happy as a Giants fan that so far this year they're beating teams that are beatable. I mean, the Giants are down there too. When other not so great teams are looking at their schedule, they're thinking, "Ooh, we got the Giants. We can beat them." Giants see that we see the Bears on our schedule. That's how we think too. And in previous years, they probably would have found a way to lose a game like this, but they didn't. Same thing with the Panthers a few weeks ago, and especially week one against the Titans. That was a game they definitely would have found a way to lose. For the past, like,
Here's a question for you.
Mhm.
As a Giants fan, so Odell Beckham was apparently in the building for a visit this week. Yes
He's
or no? Would you take Odell back?
It depends on the contract. It depends on the contract. And first of all, I don't think Odell's coming back to New York. And I think he'd be crazy to be in LA. He needs to be on a winning team. I mean, maybe he'll be happier now that he has the ring. But if he had stayed on this team, I thought the Giants actually did him a favor a few years ago. He was too talented to be on a team that was always losing. And I don't think he was going to be happy. And I think he would have made things uncomfortable for the coaching staff, the GM, the owners, and maybe he didn't like going to Cleveland. I get that, dude. You're in LA wants you back. Go back to LA. He wants to be in a big market. LA is a huge market. It's sunny. You won a Super Bowl there. I think he's crazy to go anywhere else. Shop around. Crazy to go anywhere else besides the LA Rams, in my opinion. Go back. That's where he had great times. Uh, I would welcome him with open arms for the Giants, but listen, it depends on the contract, and we're talking. Listen, when the guy's healthy, he's an excellent wide receiver. I don't know if he's Odell Beckham 2015 anymore, but last year in the Rams was certainly still good. But man, like how many? He's also injury prone. Like mentally, I've moved on. I respect the guy. I love how he plays football, but we're going to take on another guy who's always injury prone. He is. I know other Giants fans would disagree with me, but dude, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to blow up this entire wide receiver core. Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney. God, Sterling Shepard, I love you, but it's over, man. Wan'Dale Robinson caught one pass week one, and he goes on the IR. I mean, I'm ready to blow. I'm ready to just blow up the whole wide receiver core. I don't care about them, and I don't want guys as good as they are. And a Giants fan base loves OBJ. I'd welcome him back with open arms, but listen, I'm not holding my breath, and I know I'm spending too much time answering this question, but there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion as a Giants fan with OBJ. So what do you think? What would you think they should do?
I think you're right. I think I don't think he's the right fit for where the Giants are now.
Yeah,
And I think the thing with Odell is he's a diva. He's a definition
yeah,
of a diva.
Yeah,
He invented the diva receiver meaning, um, and I think with someone like Daniel Jones who is going to make mistakes, I just don't think that's a
hmm
good fit when you're trying to build a new culture. And look, we're going to
yeah,
talk about the Rams later on, but if I was the Rams, I would be doing everything
yeah,
they could to get him because
absolutely.
they need someone other than Cooper Cup to make plays because they've got no
Yeah,
one. But well,
because Allen Robinson stinks. Just like I
sucks
predicted. Just he sucked. I never liked Allen
garbage.
Robinson anyway. And let's be honest, he held back Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky all those years. Everyone thought it was vice versa. They were holding him back. All right, I'm joking somewhat, but honestly, I always felt like Allen Robinson was overrated. And you know what? He sucks. He does. Anyway, so let's move on, man. The Eagles, holy cow, 4-0. This team is looking great. Kudos to the Jaguars, who were 2-2. They're a good, solid 2-2. They lost 29-21. I believe the Jaguars were up big at some point in this game, but the Eagles came back, explosive as they are, and they pulled out this one 29-21 to remain the only undefeated team. What can you say? The Eagles are stout on both sides of the ball. They're loaded with talent at all levels on offense and defense. Jalen Hurts is questions about his accuracy last year. No, doesn't seem like there are those questions this year. Everyone is balling on the Eagles. The team seems physically tough, mentally tough. Um, they're just rocking and rolling. They're just rocking and rolling. But again, kudos to the Jaguars, man. Jaguars are coming along. Like you were saying, coaching, and I agree with you 100%. NFL coaching means so much. And they've got Doug Peterson, the Eagles' former head coach, who they won a Super Bowl with, is now their head coach. He straightened that ship out. They're looking good. Jaguar fans, you should be excited. Your team's looking really good. You had a really good game against a really tough team in the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Jags were rolling early, and um, they put some really nice drives together, and Trevor Lawrence was balling out, and look, he ran into some mistakes later on in the game, but young quarterbacks are going to have growing pains, and
Yeah.
look,
And
you
they're a better
can't,
team. Eagles are a
yeah,
better
and
team, too. It's going to happen.
you can't rewrite history, but I kind of think last year was a wash because of
Oh, yeah.
other circumstances we won't go into. Um,
Oh, man.
this year really is his true rookie year because he's got the coach
Yeah,
now and
I
he's got
agree.
more weapons around him. But no, the Eagles have been a strange team to kind of assess over the last couple of years because there's been questions over Harry Roseman and the team they've built, but they look legit good. And we said in week one this was Jalen Hurts' prove it year,
hmm
and boy, he's proven it.
Big time.
He's shoving it down
Oh
everyone's
man,
throats.
he's looking phenomenal. And you just mentioned Howie Roseman. John and I did an episode on the Toilets and Titles flagship show last night with Coach, and we were both talking about Howie Roseman. This guy is definitely a general manager of the year, and this guy, the moves he's made over the past few years, they've had a few years now where they've had like two first round picks. I forgot. I know they've got at least two first round picks in 2023. They may have three. I don't remember. But they have at least two. One of those picks is the New Orleans Saints pick because this they have the New Orleans Saints first round pick for 2023. The New Orleans Saints are 1-3. Think about this. Think if like New Orleans winds up being like a 4 or 5 win team, and that's like say like worth like the fourth or fifth spot in the draft, and
Yeah,
this is a QB heavy draft. The Eagles don't need a quarterback. Think about the value they can get for a team that needs to trade up for a quarterback, and they already have two first round picks. Unbelievable. The way he's set up this team, the way he's restocked this team in a short period of time, and he, to have the stones, the cojones to draft Jalen Hurts in the second round a few years ago when everyone was saying Jalen Hurts, you got
don't
Carson
do it.
Wentz.
Yeah,
Yeah, holy cow, man. I mean, they might be writing books on this guy on Howie Roseman in terms of how the moves he's made over the past few years. If everything turns out for the Eagles in terms of like winning a Super Bowl, maybe a dynasty. I mean, this team is just looking so darn good. But holy cow, I think about like that probably very high first round pick next year and what he can do with it. Yeah, he can spend it on a player, but really, like, do they really need to spend it on a wide receiver or a cornerback or an edge rusher. Certainly don't need it on a quarterback. So the only thing that would logically make sense in my mind as of right now, looking almost like 10 months into the future, would be to trade back and get even more assets. Unbelievable. And
General managers, their jobs are not just to focus year on year. Their jobs are to put puzzle pieces together years in advance, and that's true in all sports. And as you said, what Roseman has done with the Eagles is he's
unbelievable.
kind of been five steps ahead, even if people on the outside have maybe thought he was behind the eight ball. He's not been, and you mentioned it there. Maybe he saw what Wentz really was all along, and you've got to give him credit for making those moves, because ultimately general managers, keep or lose their jobs based on the moves they make. We saw it with Les Snead last year with the Rams. They went all out. Von Miller, Odell, and it paid off. And those are the gutsy moves you've got to make.
Yeah, and the Rams do. I like how the Rams do it too. Listen. They trade away first round picks for players, like Stafford or whatever. But those first round picks cost a lot of money too against the cap. And here they are making these trades for players who are like, normally they're making a trade for maybe like a player who's like a young veteran who's been in the league for a few years, but the other team doesn't want to give him the second contract. Listen, they're a team they want to win a Super Bowl. They've got a lot of talent, and so they acquired this other veteran talent in order to keep the train moving. And I can't argue. I can't argue. I know people used to question that too, because it hadn't really been done before. But first round picks cost a lot of money too. So that's cap space right there. So, but Harry Roseman, man, unbelievable. I can't talk enough about the guy. I think he's so interesting what he's done. All right, let's go on to Andrew Steele Davis's New York Jets. Although also my dad's team as well, the New York Jets, and coach's dad, my uncle, is also a Jets fan too. So
good taste.
Yeah, gangrene baby. Jets are now up to 2-2. They defeated the 1-3 Steelers 24-20. This was a great game for the Jets. You have Zach Wilson, who came back, who I would have been concerned that I still had a lot of hope for Zach Wilson, but only the beginning of his second year, rookie year, like most rookie quarterbacks, shaky. He missed most of the time so far his second year. Jets were actually Joe Flacco, to his credit, was having their young weapons perform pretty darn well. Garrett Wilson playing really well. Even Brees Hall doing well. Offense is looking good. Tyler Conklin, I know he's not a rookie or anything; he's been around, but the guy's been a very good tight end. The Jets offense, especially the young players that have been playing well, and I think Flacco did a great job with them. And so I was a little concerned that rookie, second year quarterback coming in, maybe everything went kind of unravel for a few weeks until he gets his footing. No, it didn't happen. The most important player on the team is their second year quarterback. He came in, he looked good, he took care. I know the Steelers aren't the Steelers of old, but they still have talent, and that's a team that is well coached and they know how to win. Playoff tested team. And they have weapons themselves. They still have a good defense, even though they're missing their best player. They still have a very, very, very good defense. And the Jets pulled out the win, 24-20. Andrew Steele, our in-house Jets fan, you take it from here. Go ahead, my friend. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, I they haven't got TJ Watt, but Heinz Field's never an easy place to go. I don't care what year. Heinz Field's never going to be an easy place to go. And as long as Mike Tomlin's a coach, the Steelers are going to be.
They still have plenty of talent on that defense.
Yeah. So, and for a team like the Jets, who again have kind of been very inconsistent this year, but again it's been hard to judge because Wilson hasn't been there. And look, for the first three quarters, Wilson was kind of the player he was for most of last year, which was very rough around the edges and some concern there. But again, as we talked about with Lawrence, with Jacksonville, this year's all about development and getting better week by week. And look, he's missed time. He's not been able to stay healthy early on, which is a concern. But that fourth quarter was impressive. I mean, what he was able to do. He had 2 70-plus touchdown drives.
Yeah.
He was 18 of 36. for 252 yards. He did have 2 interceptions, but that's going to happen.
You know what, Andrew, that,
You know,
that fourth quarter could have been that could have been where you saw his. I'm not saying it's definitive. We'll wait and see, but that could be where you see like where his career turned the corner, where the light goes on
yeah,
and everything starts making sense. A rookie year is a rookie year for a quarterback. It's such a hard transition, and I don't know, maybe even sitting the first few weeks and watching Flacco lead the offense, maybe that actually helps too. Maybe it helped, but he
yeah.
looked really. Oh, go ahead.
So no, you're right. He looked really good. He got the fundamentals right in that fourth quarter, which was impressive. And I think, as you touched on it, to go and do what he did in crunch time in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, that's he, that showed a lot of big cubes.
Yeah, yeah. This
And
wasn't this wasn't in Jacksonville. It wasn't in Indianapolis. It wasn't against the Giants. This was against Pittsburgh. That's a legit team. Listen, they're not what they were, but they still have talent. They still have Mike Tomlin. They still have good coaches, and that's still a very good defense. So, and the Steelers actually, I think on paper probably should have won that game.
yeah,
That's what I would have thought. Jets came in, and fourth quarter, like you said, that's when it matters the most. And
I and I think what's really impressive is both the Jets wins this year they've come from behind late on, and what was it Tyreek Hill said about putting your nuts in a wheelbarrow. That
mhm,
both the Jets wins, they've put their nuts on the line when it matters most, and that's
yeah,
and showed a lot of character. And I think if they can continue to do that, that's encouraging for under this regime. And if Wilson can build on this now and take what he did in the fourth quarter and start with that, then
yeah.
that's gonna be encouraging for this team.
Absolutely, man. And Zach Wilson's definitely feeling the moxie right now because now he's making a play for Giselle. Now that he knows that Brady and Giselle are, looks like they're getting divorced. He's making a play there for Giselle. So he's feeling it. He's feeling good.
If
Zach
if
Zach is
you're
feeling good.
if you're a woman over 40 in New York, you're not safe. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm telling you, he needs to wear the Joe Namath fur coat. He needs to go fur coat. I'm telling you. All right, so let's move on to the Bills. 3-1. They defeated the Ravens 23-20. I know you want to talk a little bit about this game, and I think Josh Allen. Uh, Bills are continuing the roll. They had that hiccup against the Dolphins. The one loss, but they are 3-1. They took care of business against a very tough team. I know the Ravens defense isn't what it used to be. It definitely isn't what it used to be, but still, the Ravens are always a tough team. They've got Lamar. They've got another good head coach, and it's always a tough team to beat. Bills took care of business.
Yeah, look, one of the biggest golden rules in the NFL is don't let one loss become two.
Hmm.
It's very that loss to Miami was crushing, and you saw the reaction of everyone, including the OC. Um, you know, and look, I like that, by the way. I
Yeah,
think it's healthy to show frustration.
yeah,
Look,
absolutely.
you're not in the NFL to win a participation trophy. Let's be honest, you're in it to win,
Hmm.
especially the
Yeah,
Bills, and they had every right to be cheesed off after that. But
Super Bowl
it's so easy,
expectations.
exactly, and it's so easy to let uh, a loss like that grow into something more than just one loss. And they're a bit
Hmm.
banged up, and um, they could have easily just kind of caved in, and this one could have become ugly. Look, it was 20-3 in the first half.
Hmm.
They couldn't get anything going, but look, they came back, and look, I'm talking a lot about cubes and stones right now, but they they showed some a lot of cubes to
Yeah,
kind of stand up and come back, and take down what is a talented Ravens team led by one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And for me, that any successful team in any sport that wins a championship has one or two signature moments along the way.
hmm,
And I
yeah,
think if the Bills go on and win the Super Bowl, we'll look back on this as one of their signature
yeah,
moments. As in, it was the game that they showed
right.
that they've got the pieces, they've got the quarterback, but to win a championship, you need character and you need that mental fortitude.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they showed they have that, and that's going to be huge for them going
yeah.
forward.
It's the same thing with the Jets beating the Steelers. That anytime you beat those two teams, They both teams still have they're not what they were a few years ago, but they both still have a lot of talent, and they're both really dangerous and well coached teams. And you can get a win, especially like you pointed out, the Bills were down 23 at one point, and they came back and win. You're right; those are the type of games. I mean, when you're making an expected Super Bowl run and you do win it, you're going to look back like those are the type of games that Super Bowl winners perform in. They make those type of comebacks. It's against even those really tough opponents. So great statement game by them. And okay, so let's move on to the Chargers, who are now 2-2, a disappointing 2-2, but 2-2 nonetheless. They defeated the Texans, who are now 0-3-1. They've got the tie with the Colts. Final score was 34-24. Anything you really want to say about this game? I didn't really want to focus on this game too
No,
much.
I mean we'll be quick on this one. Look, the Texans are tanking. That's clear. I don't think with all due respect to Texan fans, and if any of them are watching, we're probably not going to spend too much time on them this year.
Mm.
I think the biggest thing for the
Damian
Chargers was that
Pierce. Damian Pierce
yeah,
had a
that
good game.
he had a big game for the Chargers. Obviously, Eckler had a breakout game
Mm-hmm.
with a couple of rushing touchdowns. But the biggest thing for the Chargers was just Herbert showing,
Mm-hmm.
getting through it, and kind of coming back after that injury. So
Yeah,
that was the biggest thing for them. It was a win they needed, no matter how ugly or
yeah,
they just needed to get the job done, and they did, and that's the same for every team
yeah.
going against the Texans is just get the job done.
Yeah, I think listen, the Texans have been admirable too. They played tough, and but the Chargers, yeah, I think the Chargers are going to wind up going on a hot winning streak. Sometime fairly soon. As long as Herbert's 100%, and they need to get Keenan Allen back as well. Mike Williams has been doing a very good job as their wide receiver one right now while Keenan Allen's been out. But they do need Keenan Allen. He's a huge part of their offense. And the Chargers have a lot. They have so much talent. Really talented on the defensive side of the ball too. I expect them to wind up making the playoffs down the road, but they've gotten off to a bit of a rocky start so far. Cardinals 2-2 defeated the Panthers 26-16. Panthers fall to 1-3. I think the Matt Rule, who's the head coach for the Panthers, I think the Matt Rule watch is on. We'll see how much longer he's going to be head coach. Cardinals took care of business. I think McCaffrey had a big game, but I think Baker Mayfield may have had like 6 more blocked passes in this game. Everyone's putting up their hands and blocking Baker's passes now. It's getting kind of ridiculous at this point. Uh, Cardinals are hanging in there in 2-2. They like the Chargers. They've had a rough start to their season too, but they're hanging in there at 2-2. They're waiting for DeAndre Hopkins to come back. I think after week 6. I think it was a 6-game suspension if I recall correctly. But Cardinals are hanging in there. Anything you really wanted to talk in depth about this game?
No, I think the only thing, and you touched on it, look, the Panthers are 1-26 under Matt Rule now when the opponent scores at least 17 points, and they've
Wow,
lost
I didn't know that.
24. They've lost 24 games in a row of that variety. So I think for me, and I know there's been kind of noise coming out that they're going to give Matt Rule time, but they're just fundamentally not a sound team, and they brought
Yeah,
Baker in to try and spice up that offense, but he struggled, and they've got Christian McCaffrey, but again, he's
yeah,
never going to stay healthy for a whole year. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point this year where Matt Rule probably goes because
yeah.
it just doesn't seem to be clicking.
I mean, blessing in disguise for the Panthers is I assume they have their first round pick. They haven't, they didn't trade it away or anything. They have it for next year. And listen, if they finish very poorly this year, and if the QB draft winds up being as deep as expected, that is that all these quarterbacks who are supposed to come out in the 22 draft, if they're still looking good throughout the entire year and they don't none of them flame out, if it's that deep, Panthers should be in good position to draft one of those quarterbacks, and it's badly needed because they too are like going through the recycled quarterbacks like the Colts, whether it's Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, they're going to need a quarterback. They're going to need a quarterback. And so let's move on to a few more games to get through. Okay. Uh, Packers 3-1 defeated the Patriots, who were now 1-3, 27-24 in overtime. Um, Packers taking care of business. I do expect their young wide receivers to get better and better and better, but the running game is doing great. Allen Lazard had a touchdown, if I recall correctly. I think as a young wide receiver, if you want to go somewhere, to develop and develop quickly, the Packers and Aaron Rodgers is the place to go because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be throwing the ball to you if you're not developing. So he's going to make sure you develop. You better develop. So they took care of business. The Patriots, in my mind, surprisingly put up a tougher fight than I thought. I never count any Bill Belichick team out. I certainly don't think this is that talented team, but he could always get his team to upset anyone. You never count out Bill Belichick, but Packers were able to hold on. They're going to be facing the Giants on Sunday in London. But Packers are now 3-1, and they're rolling pretty well. Anything you want to talk about in detail with this game at all?
Yeah, not too much. I think a couple of the main points you touched on are, look, we joked in week one about Aaron Rodgers that he was always going to come back and stick it down our throats, and he's doing. Look, he's always
Yeah,
going to get the job done
he does.
one way or the other, and that's exactly what he's doing. The Patriots, obviously, they didn't have Mac Jones, but they're they're a weird team. I listen to a lot of Boston sports talk radio, and
It's a weird team.
there's been question marks over this team in terms of what they're doing coaching wise with their offense from
Yeah.
training camp, and even when Mac Jones was healthy, he's kind of regressed this year and not kicked on. So you never count out a Bill Belichick team, but I think they're a team that's clearly in transition, and
Oh yeah, they
they're
need
not.
talent.
Yeah, they're not utilizing the likes of Hunter Henry as well as they did last year, and they for me it's not a surprise that they're 1-3 and
Yeah,
trending downwards rather than upwards.
yeah, they need more talent, and certainly the questions have been around, concerning their offensive coordinators, plural, because I think there's basically two, if I recall correctly. Okay, let's move on to the Raiders, who are now 1-3. They get their first win. They defeated the Broncos, who are now 2-2. Final score is 32-23. And hey, Raiders, listen, this is coming into the season. This is definitely by far the hardest division, the toughest division of football. Uh, and but the Raiders are 1-3. The Broncos they're only 2-2. Listen, it's not horrible. I came into the season thinking, wow, the Broncos, they got their quarterback, Russ Wilson, ready to take him to a new level. I had my concerns. I know you want to talk about Russ Wilson. I had my concerns about Russ. I still thought it was a good trade for the Broncos because I felt like they were still only like a veteran quarterback away from being able to make a Super Bowl push. And because I thought their defense was really good, I thought their wide receivers were good enough, and I felt like the running game was good enough, and I believe their offensive line was good enough. But if you get someone like a Russ Wilson, that can make the big difference. But he did scare me over the past year and a half at Seattle. The way he played, I didn't think he looked all that great for his last season and a half in Seattle. I wasn't too crazy about him, and he still had DJ, he still had Metcalf and Lockett, even though he really didn't have anything else. I still expected more from him, and I was concerned, and I'm still concerned. With how he's been playing with the Broncos. I know you wanted to talk about him, Andrew.
Yeah, Joe, I got a question. I got a question for you. You're married, right?
Yes.
Right. So this probably isn't going to relate to you and the other married guys we've got out there, but you know, you go on dating sites, right? And a lot of dating sites now have kind of prompts, and
Hmm.
um, one
Yeah.
of the prompts is red flags. What red flags do you look for? And that's a big thing with dating now. Is you look for red flags, right? You go on
Hmm.
a couple of dates, and the girl you're with might do a couple of things you don't like, and you think, okay, yeah,
Hmm.
that for me is starting to kind of there's I don't like where this is going.
Right.
What I'm trying to get to in saying that is, and you touched on it. There's been red flags for a while with Russell Wilson.
He hasn't looked the same.
There's been for the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, there's been a
Hmm.
lot of red flags that if you were on going on dates with someone and they were showing those red flags, you are getting the hell out of that
Yeah.
relationship quick time. But what did the
Yeah.
Broncos do? They committed the other way. They got a truckload of money and gave it to him and thought, you know what? There's way more red flags than green flags, but we're going to marry the hell out of you anyway. and
Yeah.
ride this until the death. And
I mean,
I'm
I,
not convinced.
yeah, I'm not either. Listen, I forgot how much they gave up. I don't remember. Do you remember how much the Broncos gave up to get him? I assume it was definitely at least one first round pick. I don't know if it was multiple what they gave up to get Russ. I don't recall.
Let, let, let
Um,
me
yeah,
let me have
go
a look
ahead.
while you're
But
talking.
I have to, I will say this. I had concerns. I didn't like the way he was playing for his last season and a half in Seattle. I didn't like the way he looked. Um, and but when Denver made the move, I definitely thought that, okay, here is, even though I still had my concerns, I felt like, you know what, he's going to a much better team, and that he should look better. He's got, I think a more well-rounded team, definitely a good defense to help, limit the other team and get him the ball back as well. So he doesn't have to be the superstar stud all the time. Just kind of like what they did when they picked up Peyton Manning, you know? And even though I think that was a better team back then, but still, I think that this is a very talented team. And so I haven't given up on him. I haven't given up on him. And still, it is a new offense. So, that could be it too. But he's been underwhelming. And I have a feeling, did you find the answer there, what they gave up?
Yeah, so um, they traded quarterback Drew Lock, and
Yep.
we know Seattle was high on Lock. Tight
Mhm.
end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, and their two first round picks.
And two, huh?
Um,
Okay.
no number nine, no nine overall in 2022, and then one in 2023. Two second round picks, one in 2022, one next year, and then a fifth round pick in
Wow.
2022.
Wow. So they
Um,
gave up, wait, they gave up two first round picks and two second round picks
and
along
a
with
fifth
everything
and a
else.
fourth round pick. Yeah,
Yeah, but two first and so wow. Okay, that's right. I think Seattle used that first round pick last year. I mean, this past draft to get the offensive tackle. I forgot his name. Cross, is that it? I forgot, but I think he's playing pretty well actually. I think he's a left tackle right now. And but wow, two firsts, 2 seconds, damn, and the other talent too. But I don't know about that wasn't didn't sound like too much talent. Lock, he's not doing too well. And then Fant, I like Noah Fant as a tight end. Felt like he's kind of overrated, but still. But the key thing is the two first, the 2 seconds, and a few other picks sprinkled in. Damn,
and you
damn.
think the truckload of money that they then signed him to. Um,
Hmm.
it's a big risk if it doesn't work out. And look, it's still the key point is it's early and they're obviously still figuring things out. But they just whenever I've seen them, they just haven't impressed me. And I think the key thing as well, second half, he had a minus 20.8 completion
Wow,
in the
minus
second
20.8.
half.
Damn,
Yeah,
holy cow. Yeah, listen, I'm still pulling for him to, and I haven't given up on him. I do think he can do a lot better. I'm just right now. I'm going to chalk it up to transition issues. But you and I are both on the same page. We were both concerned about Russ Wilson. But you know prior to the trade, but I definitely felt like he'd be looking better on a much better team, which Denver is, than Seattle. But definitely should be concerned. There definitely should be concerns there. Those red flags, definitely. Okay, let's move on to the next to last game. The Chiefs are now 3-1, defeated the now 2-2 Buccaneers 41-31. Chiefs really kicked their teeth in. The score I don't even think was really the score is closer than it really was in the game. In my opinion, it was really the Chiefs really took care of business in Tampa Bay. Mahomes looking phenomenal, just looking awesome. Definitely I had my concerns about. I've always believed in Tom Brady. I've always told people, listen, when Brady shows me that he can't play anymore, I'll believe that he can't play. And I still think the guy can play, but for the first time, I was actually concerned about Tom Brady with the whole him flying back right before the start of the season, flying back to California to deal with issues that were assumed to be family issues. Now we know for a fact are family issues because it sounds like he and Giselle are heading towards divorce. Um, that really concerned me. I'm like, where's his head going to be? And I still think he was crazy for coming back and playing. He should have just retired and spent his time with his family. But where's his head going to be? Buccaneers, they did. Evans was back after 1 game suspension. He was phenomenal. 2 touchdowns. Godwin was back for the first time this year. He had a pretty good game, something like few catches, 59 yards. But for first game back, very good job there. But the Chiefs were they blew their doors wide open. And they took it to the Buccaneers early on. Buccaneers they stayed away from the running game. They were passing the whole time, and the Chiefs just never let up at all. Chiefs are looking great. Buccaneers, listen, Buccaneers are as talented, I think, as anyone for the most part. But where's Tom Brady's head at? I think that's the most important thing to me. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I wanted to delve in on the Chiefs, but I'm going to make a point about Tom Brady, and I'm going to kind of use a personal comparison if I can, Joe.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been away the last couple of weeks dealing with a family matter, which I'm not going to delve into. But the reason I've been missing the last couple of weeks is because it's been a lot, and that takes away um, that takes away from everything, and it's hard to
Oh yeah.
focus on anything else. And we've talked about, and it's been tough. And I've come back tonight, and I kind of only this week starting to feel a bit more normal. And the reason I bring that
Yeah.
up is because we forget that athletes are the same as us, and we kind of treat Tom Brady like he's some cyborg brought down by Terminator land, and but
But you know
he's a
what? Even
human being.
even the relationship though, like I remember, if people haven't seen this, I highly recommend seeing this. If you haven't seen it, Andrew, and you can see it. They actually have it on Disney Plus, um, where I think they pick up some ESPN stuff. I guess Disney owns ESPN, and ESPN has this really great series out there called 30 for 30, and just great interviews, football interviews. I think they're all football interviews. And they did actually no, actually this wasn't 30 for 30. This is a different special. You'll find it on Disney, I believe, Disney Plus. It was like an 8-part special on Tom Brady's career. And of course, like the second half of it, they're interviewing Giselle as well because she wound up uh, starting a relationship with him like 2008, 2009, I think 2010, around that time, well into his career. But she was there for more than the second half of his career. And they have kids together. They've been married, obviously, for a while. But she seemed like she was totally on board for him. Like as long as he can play quarterback, as long as he can physically do it, as long as he wants to do it. To me, it always came across as like she is on board for him, just doing his thing. And so he when it came out that he was flying back to California for like a family emergency, I'm like, all right, maybe she's actually ready. Maybe she's saying, you know, uh, Tom, it's time. We've got kids. You're 45 years old. It's time to hang it up, and we want you here. It's time. And maybe he didn't like how the retirement came about. Remember, it was his father who kind of broke the news on Twitter, and it wasn't really Tom making the announcement, making the decision, the announcement. And I think Tom originally just went along with it. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm retired. And then he came back. And then he came back. And it is tough, man. And Tom, I hope you guys can work things out. I really do, because listen, he made a mistake, and I always felt like all along, like, hey, man, if she's saying, and like I said, I was just kind of surprised because, it seemed like she was fully on board with him playing until he was 100 years old. Then, and I wouldn't expect that. It's just how she always came across. And if she's upset about it, I completely get it. That's actually how she should be when the husband's 45 years
Yeah,
old and still playing football. I get it 100%. So I'm not blaming her or anything. I was surprised that she let him play, not let, but you know what I mean. That I'm surprised that he hadn't retired earlier. You're in your 40s, you got kids, enjoy lifetime. You already have that big contract you signed with ESPN or whoever to be an announcer. You're making like $40 million a year or something like that. So right off into the sunset, my friend. Right off into the sunset. Okay, let's take care of the last game from last week. 49ers now 2-2. They're on the upswing. The Rams are also 2-2. Wouldn't say they're in the downswing, but they're both 2-2. Everyone's 2-2 this year so far. Um, the Rams, they beat the Rams 24-9. 49ers, man, Garoppolo at the helm. What a different team. And they kicked the crap out of the Rams in this game. That defense really took them apart. Rams looked very, I don't even know if one dimensional is the right word, Andrew, because it's not like they had multiple wide receivers playing well. It's basically it's the Cooper Cup show, and that's it. There is no help there for Cooper Cup. Higbee has been playing very well at tight end, but that's really it. The
yeah,
running game is nothing to write home about. And that's nothing against Stafford. Stafford's fine. I just think I think the 49ers are stacking very well against the Rams, and the Rams need another wide receiver. Hello, Odell Beckham Jr. Make it happen, Rams. Make it happen, OBJ. But they need help on the offense.
I just wanted to. Sorry, I'm going to be a pain and throw this show off the rails. I just quickly wanted to make a quick point about Mahomes, and then I'll go on to
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
on Rams for it.
I got the time, man. It's like what like 2:30 your time. It's only 9:30 my time. I'm all good.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm football talks like coffee for me. I'm all good. No, look, we said week one that this was going to be the Patrick Mahomes revenge tour because he wasn't really talked about coming into the year, and he's had one bad game, but other than that, it's been exactly that. And the stuff this guy can do with a football, the kind of offhand throws he can make and the tight angle throws.
Yeah, he's so special.
And he had so many of them Sunday, and that play where it was the kind of spin, where he kind of scrambled out of the pocket and kept the play alive. And look, we've seen him so many times able to do that, and that would have been fine. Yeah. But to not only scramble, keep the play alive, but then do a spin move and then shovel the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the end zone. Just the guy's special. Just how the guy's so special.
Andrew, how fun must it be to be a Chiefs fan? To know that every single week you've got Mahomes to look forward to. If you've got Patrick Mahomes, you're rolling Patrick Mahomes out there every single game. Like how fun it would be to have Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the only other player I can even compare to that really as a quarterback is Josh Allen, for the Bills. I mean, I love Lamar Jackson too. It's not the same thing, though. It's not the same thing. And you've got other great quarterbacks like Joe Burrow and Herbert, I think, is also an elite quarterback as well now. But Mahomes is something special. I wish he was on the Giants so bad.
I mean, if I could take him on the jet, if I could, I might give an arm and a leg away, but
I'd give three full draft classes away I'd give all the next three entire draft classes picks away to get Mahomes. He's just so awesome. Gotta love that guy.
Well, and that kind of allows, talking about quarterbacks, allows us to transition into the last game because for me, the Rams haven't looked right all year. It's still early, but there's not something. Stafford doesn't look great. He's not getting a lot.
There's something missing.
Yeah, there's something. Look, Cooper Cup's Cooper Cup, and he's come as advertised, but you can't just rely on one guy. And as we said earlier, Allen Robinson is trash. He's hot garbage.
I think that was the guy that was supposed to be the OBJ replacement. And I expected, listen, I've never been high on Allen Robinson, like I said earlier, but I certainly expected a lot more than we've seen so far.
Cam Akers, I think, has been destroyed by that injury because he just doesn't look, and I've still not forgiven Cam Akers. He's my worst enemy after burning me in week one.
I stay away from all Rams running backs unless they're going to be my backup, like a Darrell Henderson, maybe backup or Akers. But fantasy draft, I stay away from those guys in terms of like starting them as RB1, RB2.
But you, on the flip side of that, you talk about Kansas City fans. What about being a 49ers fan? Like, if you're the 49ers and, look, I'm going to go back to the relationship analogies. Coach may take me off the airwaves after tonight's show. But the 49ers is like they've dated and gone to bed with this beautiful, exciting girl. That relationship's ended, but then the very next night they've ended up going home with a supermodel, and that's what they've done with Jimmy G. Because I think they've got a better chance of winning this year with Jimmy G than they did with Trey Lance.
Oh,
I think they showed that Monday night. And I think the difference since Jimmy G's come back in, and you saw it later on in that game, is that Kyle Shanahan is going to be very conservative at the right moments with Jimmy G and put him in, when they need to make sure he doesn't risk it, they're not going to risk it. And I mean, that play that throw to Samuel was right on the money, and for him to do what he did. I think the 49ers can be dangerous this year.
But
Yeah,
I agree, man. I agree. And it's got to be exciting to be 49ers fan because I love the way that team plays. I love the Kyle Shanahan offense. Their defense is stout. It's a really good defense, and they're an exciting team. And it's hard not to pull for Jimmy G for me for not of all the stuff that he gets, all the nonsense he gets. And man, let me tell you something. If Trey Lance doesn't work out down the road, that was 3 first round picks they gave up to get that guy. And it's going to be like now that he's done this year, it seemed like what 4 years that he hasn't played football. He may be done. I don't know. He may be done, and that would have to be the worst trade in NFL history if it works if it trends that way. Well, that is how it's trending. If that's the end result where he's out of the NFL after like next year or in 2 years, that is going to be the worst trade in NFL history. All right, we are up to our
100%.
special. We're up to our special segment. That is the weekly Give That Man His Damn Flowers Award, picked by and presented by Andrew Steele Davis. So, Andrew, who is the player from Week 4 who we are throwing into the nice bed of forget me nots?
Yeah, we love this. We love this award on this show. Give that man his goddamn flowers. It's something we're proud of because we're all about the underdog on this show. Um, and this week it's the tight end from Detroit, T.J. Hawkinson. We
It
we
is.
we. We talked about it. They went into the game without three of their biggest weapons, and not just three of their biggest weapons, but three of their most productive weapons for the first 3 weeks.
Yep.
And they still put up a hell of a lot of points, and a lot of that was down to Hawkinson. He had 179 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 8 catches. Uh, everything you want from a tight end, and I think he's going to be one to watch
I'll
this
say
year.
this. I'll say this. It's about damn time he showed up and did
Yeah,
something. You know what? And me myself, I'm sorry. Continue. We're going to say I had to throw that in there. I think you said that, that he's going to take off or something like that, or you think he's going to continue
yeah.
up the rise.
I think hopefully this is a springboard because, as you said, it's we've been waiting for this, and he's built like a dream tight end. So I think
He
he was
he
brilliant, and
owes
then I think
he owes Andrew. He owes fantasy owners. He owns legions.
sure.
He owns us. I should say he owes us. He owes fantasy owners. There's so many people who put a lot of stock in this guy for the past few years, and he hasn't produced fantasy wise. He hasn't produced. He owes us. So T.J. Hawkinson, you better your career better start reaching that next level from here. Because me myself, I'm extremely disappointed in how you've performed so far. Pretty good blocker, but when it comes to fantasy, you burned way too many of us. And Andrew's just being a really, really nice guy. But I'm telling you right now, TJ, you're not going to be getting this award again if you don't continue to even if you do have another great game, it needs to be consistent, man. So he did go 8 for 12, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm not expecting that every week, but TJ, please just be consistent. You be consistent. Have them throw you that ball. They'll throw you the ball if you're catching, if you're getting it open. Get some touchdowns. Be worthy of that number 9 pick. I believe it was number 9 overall pick a few years ago. Be worthy of it. But he did show up, and he was very worthy of this award by Andrew Steele
And
this week.
and and look, this award's only been a good thing for Gino Smith. So let's hope
Yeah.
it's similar for TJ, and he can you know come back and win this award again.
Yeah. Listen, I'm being a little hard. He does have all the talent. He looks like a tight end. He's got the build. He's a pretty good blocker. He is a 3 down legit tight end. I just want to see more consistency from the guy. He doesn't have to put up
Yeah,
179 yards, but be consistent. But I love it. That was a perfect pick, I think. And yeah, he joins Gino West. At the end, I think like the final episode this year, I think we'll have a gallery from this year's
definitely.
all the
And
flower award winners.
I think it's worth mentioning for any new um, subscribers or watchers that this award is meant to highlight the unsung heroes. So if you're tuning in and you're thinking, why haven't we gone for Mahomes or something? This isn't about. We're not about the stars on this show, are we, Joe? We're about the
Not at
we're
all.
we're we're about the nitty gritty, the tough underbelly,
Yeah.
the guys that go under the
The blue
radar.
collar guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's always been my
that's
type of
what
player.
yeah, that's what we're all about on this show. So this is what this award's for.
Absolutely. I
and,
agree with you
and we
100%.
and we will eventually have some £350 linemen on this award because that is my type of athlete.
Could have been Dexter Lawrence from the Giants. He had 2 sacks this week against the
Yeah,
Bears. But I'm going with you on Hawkinson. He deserves it. I'm pulling for him. I do want him just to be a consistent producer in terms of the receiving game. He's got it in him. He's got it in him. You don't you don't put up 179 yards and not have it in you. So I just want to see it. And you know what? Hey, Jared Goff, start looking his way more too. Start looking his way. All right. So that's that. I love that pick. You know what? That is a really nice screenshot. Isn't that great? Did I do a nice job on that? The
you did.
flowers, they are really.
I give you 10 out of 10 for that.
I love it.
The
It's really.
color, the color scheme, everything.
I'm like
I'm a fan of that.
an artist, Andrew. I'm like an artist. All right, so let's move on to the picks. Let's motor through these because it's been an hour and a half. You know what? We've got the next show coming up at 10:30, and they need some time to set up too. Okay, so my week 4 results not so great. Well, I was 10-6 straight up. I did okay there, but with the spread, I was horrible. I was 6-9-1 so far for the season with the spread. I'm 30 wins, 32 losses, and 2 ties or 2 pushes. Straight up, I'm a little better. 34 wins, 29 losses, and 1 push. And so these picks, I should say, these spreads for week 5 are the spreads provided by DraftKings Sportsbook as of today, as of just like 3 hours, 2 hours ago. And let's go into oh Joe. Okay, let's go into the first game, the Thursday night game, the Colts of the Broncos. The Broncos are laying 3 points. I'm going to take the Broncos. We were, kind of like pooping on both of these teams, early in the program. Disappointed. Both are pretty fairly disappointing so far this year. I'm going to take the Broncos at home, giving the 3 points. I'll take the Broncos straight up. What's your feeling on that, Andrew?
Yeah, this is the stay away game if ever I've seen one, but I think I'll take the Broncos straight up too.
Okay. And then Giants at Pack. So the first game is Sunday morning. It's in London. So unfortunately for the Packers, it's considered a home game. It's not really a home game, but hey, you're in London, UK. That is awesome. One of my favorite cities in the world. I've been there like 5 times. Are you in London, Andrew, or were you in the UK?
I'm a little bit
You don't have
down,
to be
not too far
specific.
though.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'm not too far away.
Cool, gotcha. You don't want to give you your exact address while we're on air and all. It's all right, don't worry about it. Next time, maybe. Okay, so
Yeah,
Giants at the Packers. It's in London. Packers are giving 8 points. I'm taking the Packers, giving the points, and the Packers straight up. I don't think this is going to be a particularly close game. I think if Daniel Jones were 100%, I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but his legs are very useful. If he were 100%, maybe they could stay within the margin, within the spread. But even if he does play, his ankle's not going to be 100%. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I got to go with the Packers giving the points and the Packers straight up. What say you, Andrew?
yeah, you get good mushrooms in London, so I think Rogers will be nicely prepared. So I think Packers straight up.
All right, all right. Steelers at the Bills. This is a big spread. The Bills are giving 14 points. The game's in Buffalo. This is going to be Kenny Pickett's rookie quarterback for the Steelers, his first start. I got to take the Bills giving the points and the Bills straight up. It's 14. That's a scary spread. And the Steelers still have, I was telling them before, great coaching staff, great head coach, a tough, resilient team. They still, even without Watt, they still have a very, very good defense. You got Minka Fitzpatrick over there, who could probably stay with Stephon Diggs. But the Bills are a team on a mission. They're definitely, I think, a better team, a more well-rounded team, I should say. And they got Josh Allen, and you got the rookie quarterback going for Pittsburgh. I got to go with the Bills, even though they're giving 14 points. I got to go with the Bills giving the points and the Bills straight up, easy on the straight up part. What say you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think the Bills need a fat me up game. I think they need to beat up on someone. So I'll take them straight up.
Yeah, I mean, I can see them winning 13 by 13 points, and the Steelers would cover. That's a big spread, but I'll go with the Bills blowing them out by more than 14. Okay, Falcons at the Buccaneers. Falcons have been a tough team. Uh, Buccaneers. This could be a get straight game for the Buccaneers. Falcons at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are given 9 points. I do like the toughness of the Falcons. How they've been keeping with their opponents. They're 2-2. Even in the losses, as far as I recall, they've been pretty good. Pretty close games. But the games in Tampa Bay, I can see. Buccaneers have their They've got their weapons back. Um, I think this is a game that I think the Buccaneers will win by more than 9 points. I'm taking the Buccaneers giving the points and the Buccaneers straight up. I wouldn't be surprised if the game is actually winds up feeling closer than that. Like say it's like like a 7 point or like a 3 point game up until the end, and like the Buccaneers score like a final field goal or final touchdown to go above 9 points. I think it's gonna be a fairly close game until the end, but I think the Buccaneers will win by more than 9 points. So I'll take the Buccaneers giving the points and the Buccaneers straight up. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm taking the Buccaneers straight up too.
Okay, Dolphins at the Jets. The Jets are getting 3 points. I'm taking the Jets getting the points, and I'm really this close without Tua being there. I was praising Jacoby Brissett earlier as an ideal backup quarterback, and he is for the Dolphins. And that wide receiver duo is so super scary. But I like the way the Jets played last week. I really do. I'm gonna take the. I think it's gonna be a close game. And I'm taking the Jets getting the points. I was this close to taking the Jets getting the upset. But I'll go with the Dolphins straight up behind Jacoby Brissett. But I'll take the Jets getting the 3 points in New York. What say you, Andrew?
You know what? I think the Jets need to prove it 2 weeks in a row. So
I
I'm
hear
going
you.
to go Jets straight up. I may regret that, but
Oh, you're
we'll
going
go
Jets
with that.
straight up? Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah,
Hey, listen, I almost did. Listen, if Tua were there, I wouldn't give him much of a chance. Brissett is a proven quarterback, but I don't know. Tua was the starter. Tua was the starter. He was the one who was running that offense. I don't know. I like the way the Jets played last week, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself too. But I will take them getting the points. Dolphins straight up. Bears and the Vikings. The Vikings are giving 7 points. And I was just saying earlier how the Vikings, and they always do this, they always play down to their opponent, always, or they play up. But I got to take the Vikings giving the points. I'll take the Vikings straight up. It's in Minnesota. I'll go with the Vikings giving the points. What do you say, Andrew?
yeah. The Vikings straight up for me.
Yeah, Bears defense has been playing tough. I mean, they didn't do too well against the Giants actually, but they let Daniel Jones get some like easy long runs for touchdowns. But still, Kirk Cousins doesn't have the ability, but he's got really good, you know, weapons all around him anyway. But the Bears defense has hung they've hung tough and they've kept the Bears in the season so far 2-2. But all right, I assume the Vikings are finally going to have a game that's kind of a blowout finally. Chargers at the Browns. The Browns are the Browns are actually getting 2.5 at home. I'm going to take the Browns. I think it'll be a close game. I think the Browns. I'll take the Browns getting the points at home, and I'll take the Chargers straight up. What do you say, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm going to take Chargers straight up.
Okay, cool. Lions at the Patriots. The Patriots are giving 3 points, and I don't believe Mac Jones is playing. So it's probably I don't believe so. So it's going to be Hoyer and Zappy again. I'm going to take the Lions getting the points and the Lions straight up.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a get right game for the Lions. I think this is going to be their breakout games.
It
I'm going to go
should be.
Lions straight up.
It just man, Belichick always just scares me. Like he's so good at throwing a wrench into everything. But
He's like the Undertaker. He's the Undertaker.
he
He's
really
never
is.
quite truly dead.
I'm telling you, he's like an MVP quarterback. I'm telling you, you can never count him out. But I'll take the Lions getting the 3 points and the Lions straight up in New England. Um, Texans at the Jaguars. Jaguars are laying 7 points. I can't remember the last time the Jaguars were laying 7 points. I'm actually going to take the Texans getting the points. Just getting, but I'll take the Jaguars straight up. I'm going to take the Texans getting the points. I think they've been a pretty tough team, fairly tough team. They've been staying in their games okay. I'll take the Texans getting the points. I'm not a. I like the way the Jaguars are trending. I like the way they're playing. Great points about what you said earlier, Andrew, in terms of like last year was kind of like a wash because it was such a disaster with Urban Meyer. It's like you almost can't even count it. It was ridiculous. I
No.
like the way the Jaguars are looking good, um, but I think the Texans have been tough. I think that I have no doubt the Jaguars are going to win, but I think the Texans are going to keep kind of close. So I'll take them getting the points. What do you say?
Yeah, I like the Jags. I think straight up for me.
All right. And then we got the Titans at the Commanders. Commanders, this is probably stupid. I haven't been too impressed with the Titans either. They're having a disappointing season. Commanders have definitely been disappointing, but it's in Washington. They're getting 2.5 points at home. I'll take Washington getting the points at home. The Titans are very one-dimensional. I'm going to take the Titans getting the points, and I'll take the Commander. I'm sorry. I'm taking the Commanders getting the points and the Commanders straight up to win. I'm taking the Commanders straight up to win this game. It's in Washington. Yeah, I'm going to go that route. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm going to go in the opposite direction here. Titans straight up for me.
I don't blame you. It's probably the safer pick. Seahawks at the Saints. Seahawks are getting the points. Yeah, Seahawks are getting 5.5 points. So the Saints are giving 5.5 points. I'm going to take the Seahawks getting those points, and I'll take the Saints straight up. But I'm really close to calling the Seahawks in that one. But I will take the Seahawks getting the 5.5 points. I think they've been better than the Saints so far this year. But I will take the Saints straight up at home. But I'm really close to taking the Seahawks in that. What do you say, Andrew?
I really don't like the Saints. I don't like this Saints team, so I'm going to go
Yeah,
Seahawks straight up.
yeah. I don't blame you. I think you're probably right. I'll stick with the Saints at home, but I don't like them either. I don't like them either. 49ers at the Panthers. Panthers are getting 6.5 at home. I don't think this game's going to be close. I'm taking the 49ers giving the points and the 49ers straight up.
Yeah, I'm on board with you, 100%.
Eagles at the Cardinals. Cardinals. So this game's in Arizona, and Cardinals are getting 5.5 at home. Eagles have been really, really, really good. Uh, I'm going to take the Eagles giving the 5.5 points, and I'll take the Eagles straight up. 5.5 points is pretty good. Arizona, I still think it is a tough team. They're 2-2, but the Eagles have been pretty darn dominant. So I'm going to take the Eagles giving the 5.5 points, and the Eagles straight up.
Eagles straight up for me too.
Okay, Cowboys at the Rams. Almost done here. Cowboys at the Rams. The Rams. This is an interesting game. This is a game I'm actually most looking forward to seeing. Cowboys at the Rams. The Rams are giving 5.5 points. I'm going to take the Cowboys getting the points. I'll take the Rams straight up to win a close game. I almost kind of want to take the Cowboys in this, but I'll go with the Rams straight up to win a close game in Los Angeles. But I'll go with the Cowboys getting the points.
I'm going to go Cowboys. I think their defense is going to chase Stafford out of there, and I think Cooper Rush will do if he plays, will do
Yeah,
just enough to get the win.
Rams offense hasn't been doing too much. I mean, they're looking pretty one-dimensional with Cooper Kupp, and that's pretty much it. Um, Bengals at the Ravens. The Ravens are giving 3 points. I'm going to take the Bengals getting the points and the Bengals straight up to pull the upset over here.
Yeah, I think Joe Cool's starting to cook now, so I'm going with the Bengals.
Yeah, yep. Last game, the Monday night game, Raiders at the Chiefs, a good divisional game here. The Chiefs are giving 7 points. I got no problem with the Chiefs giving the points and the Chiefs straight up.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders have played the Chiefs tough, but this is a different
Yeah,
Raiders team, and Mahomes is just on a different level right now. So Chiefs straight
yeah.
up for me.
They're looking so sharp, looking so sharp. And that is it. Those are the week 5 picks there, everybody. And that is the end of the show. And before we go, again, I just want to put down the Twitter handles for all of me and all the teammates here at Titles and Titles. Andrew Steele Davis, you are in here this week. It's in
Perfect.
order, I think, of when we join, so you'll be at the very end. I have to let the long list run for like 10 minutes before we get to your name, but you're in there, I promise you. You're behind our other
Thank
Steele.
you.
We have Chuck Steele. So we've got Chuck
Two
Steele here in the
two
United States,
two
and we have
steals.
Andrew Steele Davis, and we've been saying that we have to get the two of you in a steel cage match. See what man there's two men enter, one man leaves. See who walks out of that. You versus Chuck Steele.
I'm up for that. Chuck's a good guy, but I'm competitive, so I'm up for that.
I think you got the beer too. I think it looks tougher too. So I put my money on you, but don't tell Chuck Steele I said that he's
Thanks,
next down.
Joe. Appreciate that.
All right, my friend. Everyone, last reminder: hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us a 5-star Apple review. We'd really appreciate it. And everyone, please wish Andrew Steele Davis a good night because it's like almost 3 a.m. over there, his time in the UK.
Thanks
Andrew,
very
take
much,
care,
Joe.
man. Everybody, have a great week. Enjoy your NFL Week 5, and we will see you next Wednesday.